Now, workers' unions are bracing for a fight over proposed amendments to labour laws that they say are an infringement to their constitutional rights. But the government insists they are meant to protect Kenyans from inconsistencies in the delivery of essential services. Among the amendments proposed in the Labour Relations Act is to ensure workers in essential services sectors are mandated to undertake certain responsibilities during strikes. Such services including health, water, electricity. They also include post workers, telecommunication services, provisional of air navigational services, firefighters, fuel distributors, and meteorologists, among others. And the changes, if passed, will slap a 500,000 month imprisonment of any union official if the strike they have called for disrupts the services listed as essential. Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani today revealed that Kenya lost a total of 100 million man-hours in industrial action last year. The amendments also seek to mandate unions to give a 21-day notice to the Labour Cabinet Secretary before going for strike to resolve issues, and thereafter another 7 days if issues are not resolved. We are asking you tonight, should the government have a role in managing industrial action by trade unions? Text us your views on 22422, and on Twitter, use the hashtag The Big Question. In studio now, Cabinet Secretary Labour Ukur Yatani. Thank you so much, Waziri, for making time for us tonight on The Big Question. You have defended these amendments. We've heard the unions oppose it, even in your presence today, and you again defended them. Why? Why are they necessary to you?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Foremost, I want to wish Kenyans a happy Labour Day. As you know, we are social partners with the employers, the employees of this country. And the role of the ministry is to ensure that at a given time that there's industrial peace, harmony between, and should there be any conflict. My role as a cabinet secretary, or the role of the Ministry of Labour, is to mediate, is to be an arbitrator and a facilitator to ensure that the economy does not ground, so that at a given time there's an opportunity for dialogue with a view of resolving whatever dispute that may arise.
Right.
Regarding the amendment, foremost we need to realize that there's no law, society is not static. The circumstances of 1960s at the time of independence and the circumstances now, both socio-economic and political and environmental situation, are totally different. So our laws should also be in tandem with the time. We had an old constitution, and there was a necessity for it to be changed. We have a new constitution now. And a number of areas, quite a number of those laws that we still operate under are the laws that were enacted in 1965. They no longer reflect the situation
These rights
of the time.
are in the new constitution.
Yes, they're in the new
in our
constitution. Of course. And for us, to align the acts with the constitution, certain fundamental amendments are absolutely necessary.
All right, you're saying, in the beginning, you're saying your role is mediation and facilitation. But your role here, if these amendments pass, seems now to be going into managing, more than mediation and facilitation.
Not really. You need to understand that the law, any sector of the economy, any sector of the society, must be anchored within the main, the national interest. We have situations where, in essential services, as you had just said earlier, where, assuming now, all the workers working for, the power sector, they go on strike. We have, that is strictly essential service. We have certain facilities that cannot operate without energy, the ICUs, and so you are right, it's not absolute. It must be managed. It must be, it does not spill over to affecting, to defranchising, the rest of the Kenyans. So the amendments are very necessary.
So meaning it'll be definitely going into managing to some extent.
If you may say so, but you must really understand that maybe we need to read the amendments in context. What we are saying is that we are not saying that they should not be barred from going on strike,
right?
But certain fundamental procedural action needs to be put in place. At the moment, the unions requires only 7 days to go on strike. So what we are saying, the 7 days are not enough, because on issues of welfare and issues of better wages, the negotiation must be elaborate. the CS labor or the CS, the CS energy or the CS health or whichever education does not have money to produce at one go. It's a process of negotiation. Treasury must be roped in, and it's a budgetary issue. So for us now to have ample time for discussion and negotiation, and where we know we reach an agreed position,
right.
It's a procedure. It takes time.
But the agitation starts a long time before that. We all see that. But I just want to refer to the Constitution now, Article 41, which talks about, this is in the Bill of Rights. Article 41(2) says every worker has the right, among others, says to form, join or participate in trade unions. It also talks of every worker has a right to go on strike, first to fair remuneration, to reasonable working conditions, to form, join or participate in the activities of programs of a trade union, and to go on strike. You are now saying some of these workers in essential services that you're going to list, if this is passed, will not go on strike. That's what you're saying. That goes against what the Constitution provides, isn't it, for every worker?
But that's only one section of the law, of the Constitution. Your right is not absolute. Your right should not, impede the rights of other people. The same Constitution talks of rights to lives, right to better medical services. So we have to really look at the context.
But is it about the personnel or the government ensuring those rights?
It's both. The government, it is a democratic government, and we have a president that holds interest in the welfare of the entire country, of the entire population. So a segment of society, we cannot only look at that point to the extent that, the rights and, the rights of other Kenyans are also affected negatively. That's why we need to look at it in context. What we are saying is that, the amendments are not saying that, unions should not go on strike. They can go on strike.
Okay.
But, as they do so, certain services needs to be handled differently. Okay. In terms that, when others require 7 days, and in such services, you require 21 days. That's actually what we are proposing.
Right.
And in doing this, that we must also have skeleton staff that will be manning critical services, including, the service of ICU. Look at the situation where now there's a fire outbreak, assuming there's a fire outbreak now, and the staff, the trained staff are on strike. What happens? Do we now leave it to the force of nature? There's going to be a serious disastrous effect to the country. So some of these services needs to be insulated. The procedural motion needs to be different from other non-essential services. They were,
you've had, trade unions really oppose this, and they're saying if worse come to us, even if this goes through Parliament, they're still going to go to the courts and block it. You've had that. The question is for them, is how effective are these strikes going to be? For example, let's take an example of health, and you'll decide, you're talking about the essential services, and if you disrupt the essential services, you're saying you are liable to 3 month imprisonment or a fine of 500,000 shillings. They say it is through that desperation of withdrawing services that their plight will be hard. That infamous phrase that is the language the government understands. So if they're not going to do that, then the government will never understand.
As a ministry, what we've done, we've just proposed amendments. The matter is in the National Assembly, and it's going to go through the procedural motion. Parliament is representative of the people of this country. They are going to be sensitive to all the views that will be given by not only us, but also the entire country, including the unions. And they will have an opportunity. The bill now is the first reading and has already been committed to the committees. At that level, all the union officials and any person in the country can have an opportunity to go and make presentation, reject, give reasons as to why maybe this is not possible.
Right.
So in my view, ours is just a proposal.
They feel you should have done the consultation prior, and maybe you should withdraw and negotiate or consult them again. Is that something you're willing to do?
We have very good working relationship, particularly since my appointment with all the unions and also the employers, and we are constantly discussing.
Right.
And they're free to bring this matter up, and we can still engage the National Assembly to look at if we'll be persuaded to think otherwise. But you know, we must be really sensitive. This country requires all of us, and we must be bold enough to make decisions that's going to be beneficial to the entire country. Last year, if I give the example of the health sector, Kenyans have really suffered. It's been a big problem. We have seen loss of lives, a loss of opportunities, a lot of time wasted. When is a matter that can actually be discussed? You know, strike should be a last resort. Both in Constitution and the relevant act, we have an opportunity to engage, you know, to undertake alternative dispute resolution, where the Minister, the Cabinet Secretary for Labor, can undertake, you know, certain engagement with the view of looking for solutions. Quite a number of these things, when they end up in court, the court, you know, might take a very long time for this matter to be dispensed with. But at the ministerial level, where the Cabinet Secretary for Labor appoints a conciliator, it's something that can be, you know, quickened up so that, you know, other services does not suffer, Kenyans does not suffer, a matter that can be disposed within the very short time possible. So these are things that we are looking at. All right.
Very briefly, the changes also seek to give you powers to appoint 5 people outside government to the Board of Trustees of NSSF. We had Court to Secretary General Atwoli complain today. We had Jacqueline Mogo of FKE again complain today. We all remember earlier this year when Majority Leader Adan Duale said that Atwoli and Jacqueline Mogo have overstayed at the board. We had Atwoli again attack Duale, and Duale responded today. Does this have anything to do with that?
Foremost, I think we need to know that these are not amendments by Duale. It's a government proposed amendment. It's really unfair for, you know, the Secretary General Atwoli, you know, to personalize the office holder, Honorable Duale. Honorable Duale is acting
because he had pronounced himself earlier, I mean, in February.
Not necessarily, because the amendments came from, you know, it's processed through the cabinet. Not may have originated from our office, but it's processed through cabinet and forwarded to the National Assembly. So I think that respect is really necessary. Regarding a National Social Security Fund, this is a fund that has done very well in very many ways, but also has a serious image problem. Over a long period of time, there have been cases where, you know, there's plunder, theft, and embezzlement of public fund. It has a board, and quite a number of them, some of the board members have been there for a very long time. So we want to cure this. We have now a serious problem at the Hazina Trade Center, where over you know, so much money, 6.7 billion, cannot really be accounted for. When, you know, the project can be done with, you know, 40% of the same. So what we are doing is that, you know, we want to ensure that we have discipline, we have not only firm control, but a board that will be responsive. And the amendment seeks to cure this. What it has done is that at the moment, really the amendment that we are looking at is that COTU or FKE, we are not saying that they will not be sitting in the board. They will be sitting in the board, but they are going to propose names. Not one name, but maybe 2, 3 names. And then the Cabinet Secretary will look at it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because the essence, you know, the part of the reason why we are doing this is that you propose one single name. This has to be subjected to many other, you know, parameters, including the gender balance, the regional interest. We have seen cases where, you know, different institutions, you know, propose names for gazettement, assuming all of them are from one community or one region, or they're all from one gender. That's not going to reflect the interest of the country.
All right.
To balance this, that's we're saying that give us more, and then we know we can subject to all other tests to ensure that, you know, we are balanced in terms of gender, in terms of region, in terms of also competencies.
Okay. Interesting to see how this will go. I mean, and what the submissions will be done in Parliament by the trade unions. Right now, teachers are threatening to go to strike over transfers. Lecturers already on strike. Doctors disquiet over the Cuban deal. You've heard about this when you were governor. Now you're the cabinet secretary. You talked about 100 million man-hours lost last year. What are you going to do differently?
The Ministry of Labor is one of the critical social partners where, you know, we bring workers and the employers together, and there's no substitute to dialogue. We are going to engage, sit, discuss, and agree, because at the end of the day, we must look at the large interests of the country, not only, you know, sectoral interests, but the bigger good of the country. as I said, here, one of the areas that we are going to strengthen is the alternative dispute resolution, where we're going to put all our time and energy in engaging, taking this matter away from courts and ensuring that, matter does not spill to the streets. We engage each other with a view of understanding and also go further to ensure that all the affected ministries, whether it's education, health, are also roped into this arrangement. We sit, we discuss the best way forward on all this. The interest of the workers is very important. To having a motivated workforce is also good for the economy. But is the economy supporting it? It must be in context. We are in a region, we are in competition for investment, both within East Africa, COMESA, and also Africa, and also the entire world. So we have to remain competitive. If investments are going to be driven out of this country just because the wage bill is unreasonable, or the wage, the guidelines is unreasonable, this we are not really done any good for this country. At the expense of trying to give better pay, we may end up, having most of the people who are already working may just be taking them out of business. So we have to strike a balance.
Right. Regarding workers' unions, you have your work cut out for you. We wish you the best of luck. Okay, there's a text here. I think this is important. I'll just ask it very briefly finally. This is Musa in Mombasa. How will you address constant complaints from Middle East by Kenyans working in Middle East over discrimination? Very briefly, if you can just respond to that.
Yeah.
There have been numerous of that, I'm sure, and you've heard of it.
I think we need to realize that the rate of growth of the economy is not in tandem with the number of people who are churning from colleges and the various institutions of training. So we have bulk of people quite educated, but the economy cannot absorb. So the government has now gone beyond to look for opportunities in the rest of the continent and beyond. And in doing this, we have fertile ground within Middle East, where both unskilled and skilled can competitively get jobs.
Right.
So we have extended to this, and we need to realize that we need to strike a balance between you staying at home unemployed without income or having a job in the Middle East. Particularly the domestic staff. There are quite a number of them in the Middle East. Last week I was in UAE, and we realized that there are over 30,000 Kenyans working in various homes. In the past, the challenge has been that people have been sent. They have been individually going to the Middle East without training, without adequate orientation, and it's been a serious challenge. The role of at the moment, the ministry, we've come up with a training program where we are now training people designed, for migration to the Middle East. In the national industry.
How does training protect them?
They go there knowing what to expect on their rights, and also getting exposed to basic Arab language, the basic Arab culture, so that wherever they go, they can, quickly adjust to the situation. Part of the bigger challenge that we've also realized is that, you go there, you do not expect. We have also some rural girls who go there. Maybe they're seeing a house of that situation, for the first time. They're using, this is the first time they're going to use a fridge, a lift, and even the basics, what is considered very basic there is completely...
Right, and I'm sure that's important, but very briefly again, how does that protect them in terms of how do they seek redress when they have a problem? How do they seek redress?
What we've done at the moment is that in the past, we had over 1,100 recruitment agencies who nobody knew. The government did not know where they are and where they were operating from. Right now, that has actually been stopped. They are all now registered by an interministerial committee chaired by my office, with proper background check from intelligence, the police, all the stakeholders and migrations are involved. So vetting has been concluded. Actually, it's an ongoing process, and to date we've netted about 53 who are now legally binded. And in addition, as we register this, they also put some amount of money, 1.5 million, in terms of security. Should any of the employees that they send to the Middle East get problems, that money now the ministry can use to repatriate or to bring back that person.
Right.
This is one area. Additionally, we have entered into a bilateral agreement with all those countries. In the past, it's not been there. So all the terms of engagement, salaries, the welfare, medical, and all these are actually negotiated and signed in the bilateral, and they're well covered. Additionally, we've also posted labor attaches to all these ministries, where the actual data, the address, the contact of our people who work in those countries are well documented at the embassies, and regularly they check on them, and they also know should there be a problem, they know where to go and whom to contact.
All right.
And through that, then we try to give a redress.
Right. Okwiri Atani is the Cabinet Secretary, Labour. Thank you so much for making time for us tonight. On the big question, we are asking, should the government have a role in managing industrial action by trade unions? Keep texting us, 22422, and on Twitter is the hashtag The Big Question. We are back with Sports News after this break.